Hey, Dr. Lansing.
Hi, I'm joining by still driving at this point, so and then I'm heading to the hearing. I'm not till like the third or fourth bill, so but I'm
Oh,
here. How
gotcha.
are you?
I'm good. And that's good to know that because I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting you, but I'm glad you're able to at least listen in for a little bit. Um, yeah, doing well. Was really happy to hear from Annika the other day, so things are good.
Hi. Yeah, that's so exciting. Very good. Does she have another child, or is this her first?
This is her first.
Oh, that's so fun. I'm so happy for her.
Yep, yep, us too. Well, I won't bug you too much while you're driving while we wait for other
Okay.
folks to join.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Summer.
Yep.
This is Nancy. I am actually, I'm in Cecil County at an event to sign up farmers to accept SNAP benefits. So we ended up using my computer at the last moment so that a farmer could work with USDA. So I'm on my cell. Sorry.
No problem. Don't
Okay.
worry. Yep, not a problem at all. And you can't see, but Dr. Lansing has also joined briefly while she's traveling to Annapolis. So she will be, probably mostly listening in until she has to drop, but she's here too, and we're just waiting for other folks to join.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And exciting news about the newest member of the MDEM team.
I know it was really, really nice to hear from her, and to get to see the photos and everything, which I'll have to show to some of the group. Yeah, it's really nice. It sounds like everything is good. All
Good.
Just wonderful, exciting news.
Well, good. If she can keep us straight, she can keep that child straight, I'm sure.
There you go. Yep. Hey, Martin.
Good afternoon.
Well, hello to everyone who's joining. We're going to give it a minute here. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started in a minute here. I'm Summer Modelfino. I'm the Deputy Chief Resilience Officer for MDEM, filling in for Annika, who's usually coordinating these meetings. And we'll get started in a minute. Looks like people are still trickling in. All right, well, in the interest of time, I'll just move us forward. You can see we've got the agenda up here. Dr. Lansing is dialed in today, but she's on her way to testify in Annapolis. So she'll be listening in, may or may not be able to come off mute at different points. And then we've got Nancy as well, who is joining us by phone today while she's at an event. So I'll hand it over to you, Nancy, if there's any welcome introductory remarks or things that you'd like to say to the group to kick it off.
Well, thank you, Summer, and thank you for stepping in to help us during Annika's leave. We really appreciate it. And I just want to welcome everybody to the meeting. If you do have an opportunity, we'd appreciate if you would put your name and your affiliation in the chat so that we know who is attending, and look forward to hearing about the updates on the work groups. And just remind everybody, we welcome and appreciate everybody's efforts in developing these recommendations. And Summer's actually going to go over the time schedule just to remind us what type of schedule we are on. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Summer.
Thank you, Nancy. Perfect. So we'll just move forward here. I'm going to do a quick roll call just to see who we've got on the line. I'm going to go through the voting members, and I can already see a lot of faces, so I'll skip people if I see them. So let's start with, do we have Dr. Escobar on the line? Okay. I see we've got Dr. Karki. Hello. Is Grace Leatherman here? Hello, Dr. Karki.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Grace. I think I saw Steve McHenry. Yep, so we've got you, Steve. I believe I saw Joe Malone as well. Do we have Dr. Range here? Okay. And then do we have Mark Powell? I think we've got
Sorry,
Martin.
This is Martin Pruin from Mark Powell.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Martin. All right. We've got the roll call down. A couple quick announcements, and I know some of you have heard this a few times, but just to give a bit of a calendar look ahead of what's coming, we've got, as always, the Monday meetings of the Communication and Coordination Committee. So the next one is coming up on the 24th, this coming Monday. For those who haven't attended, they're a really great resource to learn a little bit about what's happening in the General Assembly right now related to food systems. So those are at 1 p.m. If you're interested in joining, I'll share a little bit more info about how to do that. We've also got an upcoming Distribution and Access Committee meeting on March 27th from 1 to 2:30. And then the next meeting of this committee will be 4 weeks out. So that'll be Thursday, April 10th, same time, 1 to 2 p.m. And then the last upcoming meeting to be aware of is just the full Food System Resiliency Council meeting, which will be on April 17th from 10 to noon. And that is going to be a really good one. We're going to have CHHS go through a legislative session debrief just to recap where things landed with the various bills that we were paying attention to related to food systems in this session. That's what we've got in terms of calendar announcements. Again, if anyone wants to join those Monday legislative kind of update meetings, there's information about doing so here. And if you go on the FSRC website, there's more information about how to do that as well. And Nancy mentioned, I know we've gone through this a couple times, but it's helpful to reset always to just take a look at what the FSRC report timeline is. So this is a little bit bumped up from what it was last year, which is why we just want to kind of go over it again. The next deadline that's coming up is at the end of April. We're asking all of the committees to submit draft recommendations to us at MDEM with the intent that we can share those recommendations to state agencies and give them 2 weeks for comment in the first 2 weeks of May. So, you know, right now, the end of April feels a little far away, and we know that's what you all are working in the ad hoc work group meetings, but just want to keep throwing that date out there so people have it on their minds. And then the rest of the process should look pretty similar to what you've done in the past in terms of voting on the final set of recommendations, voting to completely finalize everything and get last bits of feedback from the council, and then finalizing it with the intent to have it complete by mid to late July.
And this is Stephanie Lansing. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Wonderful. I would just add that since our next meeting is mid-April and we have to have it to the council at the end of April from the committee, that we really should be bringing to the mid-April meeting, you should be bringing your sheet. We have a council recommendation sheet that we have to fill out with, you know, what is the recommendation, the supporting materials, etc. So that really needs to be done and brought to the next meeting. So basically in the next month, we need to be working towards going from the ad hoc work groups to the actual filling out of those forms and fleshing out what the recommendation will be so that we can present it to the committee on the next meeting and get feedback from the committee before we finalize it and turn it into MDEM at the end of April. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Dr. Lansing. That's super helpful. And we can make sure to reiterate that in the follow-up too. But I think that's a great point to make sure that for the next CMP meeting, you've got those recommendation sheets filled out and brought for discussion. All right, that's what we've got in terms of announcements. So I think that takes us into the heart of this conversation where we'll be focused on getting updates from the ad hoc recommendations work groups. I'll hand it over to you, Nancy, and I might just describe what the slides are in case you're not able to see them right now. So right now I've got the slide up that just has a bunch of questions for folks who are part of those various work groups.
Yep, I actually have it in front of me. I've got a
Oh,
printed
great.
copy.
Okay, perfect.
So, yeah, what we are going to do is ask somebody to identify themselves from each of the work groups. I think, people have been really engaged, and just provide us with a brief overview of the questions that are on the slides. Really looking at if you have questions about external subject matter expertise that could help you, you might want to ask the larger group. And also looking at your next meeting date, as both Summer and Dr. Lansing said, we are on a pretty short time frame. April seems like it's a long way away, but it really isn't. So be thinking of when your next work group date might be, and if you've already set it, if you could let the group know. That's it.
Perfect. So let's move to the first work group that we've got on the list here, which is local food aggregation and institutional procurement. Would anyone like to go ahead and respond to those questions and give updates who has been a part of that ad hoc group?
I can provide some updates based on the notes from our last meeting. In terms of who attended the last one, it was myself, Diana Taylor, Emma from Moon Valley Farm, Julian Kroboth, Krissa Carlson, Grace Leatherman, Jennifer Freeman. Is that the question there? Yeah, it seems like a rundown of who participated in the last work group. And so when it comes to progress, we've moved forward on identifying some sort of key questions to further flesh out during discussion to help fill out the checklist and template. I feel like these are sort of the budding form of some of the recommendations potentially from this work group to further flesh out with the larger committee here. And some of those topics include, better understanding sort of Maryland Certified Food Program and what the specific certifications are, clarification there, clarifying local food, sort of quantitatively defining what exactly that means with a range or distance, highlighting challenges like the lack of processing facilities, getting a better understanding on sort of procurement barriers from prisons, hospitals, and the university system, and a better understanding of what is local from and what can be done to use more local foods in these facilities. So that's sort of an overview. I'd like to open it up to anyone else who is in attendance with this work group as well, if they had additional points that I may have missed. And we have set up a meeting date for the 26th of this month. And I think that the next steps are to understand, maybe delegation for, I don't know, if tapping into the expertise within our group currently to start fleshing them further out, some of these topics.
Well, thank you, Joe. That makes a lot of sense. And yes, if anyone else who was a part of that meeting would like to jump in and add anything, please do. Yeah, Cleo, please go ahead. You're on mute. It looks like you're still on mute. Okay, feel free to put it in the chat as well. Okay, perfect. It looks like that's what you're saying. And we'll go ahead and take a look. Well, while you're doing that, Joe, is there any additional, it sounded like right now, oh, Cleo, it looks like you're off mute if you want to try.
Yeah, sorry. No, I would definitely love to join that work group.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I thought I had, but didn't get dropped in.
Great,
Yeah,
thank you for that.
If I could just make sure that somebody from MDA is at the next meeting. It sounds like you have questions about the Certified Local Farm Enterprise Program and various state procurement efforts. And I think it would be good for Karen Fedor, Mark Powell, or Martin. Maybe you can sub too. Just make sure you have the expertise in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a point of contact, Representative Steve. I will make sure that they are in on those conversations.
Very good.
Great, perfect. Thank you for flagging that, Steve, and for responding, Martin. We appreciate it. Joe, are there any other types of expertise that this group is hoping to bring in while we've got the full group here?
We didn't identify any specific expertise. As a footnote, Karen Fedor was on last week's meeting, but wasn't noted, if my memory serves me correctly. So there has been some MDA representation in this for sure. Just wanted to note that. But in terms of additional SMEs to include, we haven't reached out to anyone that I'm aware of.
Got it. Thank you. That's great. Unless there's any other comments or questions that folks have on this one, I'll move us forward to the next one. Okay, and thank you, Joe. That was really, really helpful. It sounds like a lot of good themes coming up there. Next up, we've got agricultural, labor, and workforce development. Would anyone like to jump in and give the update for that group? See, I know that Dr. Lansing, I think, was taking the lead on that one, but she may or may not be able to jump in right now. Was anyone else a part of that meeting? It looks like maybe Joe Malone, again, you may have been a part of that, or Grace, it looks like you may have been a part of that one.
I wasn't there for the whole thing, but we did discuss the apprenticeship model and heard from the Department of Labor about how apprenticeship currently works in other industries, and discussed whether or not that may have some application in sustainable agriculture in Maryland. EcoCity was there as well. So we talked about how that lines up with education programs that already exist. So we didn't come to any real policy recommendations, but it was very interesting to compare the apprenticeship program with current programming.
That means it's right. That means it's all.
Thank you, Grace. That's super helpful. Would anyone else like to share other pieces of it? It sounds like it was a good moment to kind of center on some questions or themes around apprenticeship and what that could look like. Anyone else who was a part of the conversation, other things you'd want to add or note?
I think that this is Stephanie. It was a really good conversation. Like, I felt like we all in the room learned a lot in terms of existing programs, understanding how agriculture might fit into the Department of Labor's apprenticeship program and what may be some challenges for that. But again, part of it is somebody has to, in order to do the Department of Labor apprenticeship program, somebody really has to raise their hand and say, I want to lead this, right? And so it's hard to, you can't really create a policy saying somebody needs to lead this. So I think that's part of the challenge, is understanding what is the policy ask. And so I don't think we're there yet. We realize that there's federal programs, there's state programs, and we're trying to figure out how to best, create labor for agriculture, which is needed. And especially small agriculture, where people are shared amongst farms, or other models that we might explore. So I think that's our challenge, is that we're learning a lot from each other, but how does that translate into a policy ask?
That makes a lot of sense. And is there any, it sounds like, the problem you described makes a lot of sense, which is that you would need someone to actually volunteer and raise their hand in order to do this. So that is one identified challenge. I guess my question would be, are there other types of subject matter expertise or folks that you all may have identified that you'd want to bring into the conversation that could help with clarifying on what that policy ask is? Or is that not really, the avenue that'll be most helpful?
Well, we had two representatives from the Department of Labor who were really great, and it was a really good conversation about what the existing resources are. So I don't think there's an ask on like other expertise coming in, because they're really the experts in this. If we go the Department of Labor, apprenticeship route, and that I think was the original recommendation, was to develop a program with the Department of Labor on agricultural labor. So that's the recommendation we had last year. And so we've learned a lot more about it and it's still a really good idea, but it's so, maybe there's something about, maybe you form a committee, maybe you do something else to try to figure out how to flesh out this type of program, because there is a lot of challenges with it. So maybe that's part of it, is trying to figure out, maybe there's a pilot program or there's some money for, a committee to be formed. But the challenge is that, it's a challenging space too. Like, for example, with Grace and Eco City, you have nonprofits in the space. So the tax break isn't really something that is that enticing, right? But it's a lot of work. And so I don't know. I think it's a good idea still. I just don't, I'm still having trouble figuring out in my head how it moves forward to a policy. I don't know, Grace, do you have anything else to add?
I think that's right. I think there's lots of us who find it very interesting and think it would be useful for our farmers. Yeah, but I'm not precisely sure the best way to move forward on that one either at the moment. But happy to continue to talk about it. It's definitely something our farmers would appreciate.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you both. It sounds like just figuring out what that kind of intermediate policy step would be is where the heart of some of these next conversations will go. Has this work group set the next meeting date so we can let folks know if they're interested? Okay, it sounds like maybe it's a no, but I'll follow up with Dr. Lansing to double check in case it has been set. All right. Any other thoughts on this one? And thank you to everyone who shared thoughts, Grace and Dr. Lansing. We appreciate it. Okay, moving to the next one, which is climate smart agriculture. And Nancy, I believe that your name is all over this one. So if there's anything you would want to share in terms of how that went, please go ahead.
Okay, supposedly the work group has had two meetings so far. I missed the first meeting. I was at the second meeting with Dr. McCullough. I don't know if she is on the line today. We've talked about the issues that farmers are facing regarding climate change and what are some of the challenges that they need to address in terms of their operations, and also data and warning for climate change. I think even more so now that NOAA has experienced so many reductions. We also talked about Montgomery County's pilot program that they have launched to help farmers with climate practices. So that's what we learned in the last one. It's really a case of sitting down as a group or reconvening as a group and determining what areas we would like to focus on in terms of recommendations. So, and we have not set a work group date. So this was a good call, nudge to do so.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy. That's really great to hear about. And yep, noted on what the next steps are for that group. Was anybody else a part of those conversations who wants to jump in and share any other information or points that were discussed? I don't think we have Dr. McCullough here today, but thank you for flagging that, Nancy. But if anyone else was present and wants to share, please feel free to do so. All right. Moving on to the next of the ad hoc work groups. This is on zoning and regulatory barriers for agricultural producers. Let's see. Would anyone like to go ahead and volunteer to share updates from that group? It looks like there's a few people that I've got who were on the list to be a part of this group. So it looks like Joe Malone, Martin, I think your name was down here, Nancy, Dr. Lansing, and I believe Cleo as well. So if any of you were a part of this, if the group met, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, Summer, Cleo had her hand up. If it was to give an update, I'll let her go first.
Oh, sure. I think that might be the hand up from before. But Cleo, if you are trying to speak, feel free to come off mute and do so. Okay, it looks like maybe not. I'll message her to see if she's trying to jump in, but if not, go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, so this was the second meeting, first meeting in January, second meeting just a couple weeks ago. We engaged a roundtable to invite the agricultural community, including the ag specialists from various counties. And as the invitation went out, some environmental health officers as well. Again, this is a recommendation that I think everyone can agree on as far as what is a challenge, but as far as actionable recommendations, that's something we're continuously discussing and trying to see what would be the best course of action. Obviously, regulation is complex. Obviously, regulation is viewed as overbearing. But a lot of the feedback we had received, at least through the notes from our February 28th morning meeting, was that information is still kind of scattered. Farms and producers just don't have the access to information. There's absolutely a benefit to ag specialists at the county level. Thankfully, they found value in MDA having this type of role as well. But it's not standardized across the state, and it causes a lot of confusion. From the environmental health standpoint, the concern continues to be raised that these are new operations that really kind of test boundaries of regulation as it's written from the state down to local and how it's enforced from the local up to state. So I don't know if there's necessarily an actionable item that's completely been fleshed out just yet, but we're moving in that direction. And it seems like resources and materials are something that the industry is asking. Everyone in that meeting was made familiar, and I think most people, at least in this committee or the council, are familiar with MDA's ongoing project to establish a statewide guidance document for value-added agriculture and agritourism. So we shared a little bit about that, and that's an ongoing project. Certainly, we hope to have that published by September so it can align with the finalization and submission of any recommendations FSRC might be making that would align with it. But I think we're moving in the right direction, bringing some new perspectives to it, getting some farmers on the call. And that's, you know, those are the boots on the ground that are experiencing these challenges and can reflect on the hurdles and where they lie. And so I think it was an engaging conversation.
Well, thank you so much for that, Martin. That's really helpful. And it sounds like a lot of good engagement, a lot of good expertise, and similar to some of the other groups, a lot of good discussions around what the problem is. And now it's just honing in on what those policy recommendations could look like. Shannon, it looks like your hand is, yes, your hand is still up. Okay. Would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I just want to confirm, like, I would agree with a lot of what Martin shared. And I think it was really good at the state level for us to share a lot of activities that occur within within the local jurisdictions. The state doesn't necessarily have precedents or over requirements for, right? So when it comes to some of the zoning, that's going to be at the local level that we can't necessarily impact because that's the local jurisdictions, right? But I did want to share, in case anyone was not aware, and I shared it during the subcommittee call, the one stop for Maryland as far as regulatory oversight and information. I just put in that chat in case anyone was interested.
Thank you, Shannon. That's super helpful. And while people are looking at the chat, you can also see that Carol Jones put in a reminder about Food Waste Prevention Week, which is coming up. And there's some good information in the chat there for those who are interested in that too. Let's see. I can't remember. I don't think you mentioned this, Martin, and you did not, Shannon, but is there a next meeting set yet for this group? Like a next meeting date? that people should be aware of if they want to know? It looks like maybe not yet, which is totally fine because you've met twice so far.
Yeah, I don't think so. And we had to schedule a little early. We had to be strategic with the placement of it as we try to engage the producers themselves, knowing that those schedules don't necessarily align with those in offices every day. And so I think we'll go back to the drawing board and get that squared away.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Martin. And that seems like a really thoughtful approach. Well, any last thoughts on the zoning and regulatory barriers ad hoc work group? Okay. Okay, the next one is food date labeling for wasted food reduction. Would anyone like to provide the update for that group? Was anyone on this call? Did anyone participate in that group who's on this call? I know we, in the distribution and access meeting that we had a little while ago, we asked about it and there wasn't anyone who had participated, but I'm not sure for this group, if that's the same situation, or if there is anyone who was able to be a part of it if they've met.
When was the meeting? Let me see. Look at my calendar. I don't remember.
Yeah, Stephanie, it was you, Kara, Erin, and Anne Marie that had attended.
All right, good. So let me try. Did we take notes?
Yeah, you want me to read what the notes said?
Yeah, go for it.
I love it. Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah, no, I couldn't. I was supposed to be in the attendance of the meeting and I could not. I was pulled away. So the HB 8 was withdrawn. FDA has a joint request for information regarding the date labeling, consumer perception for food loss. I guess you talked about the new California law of the best if used by and used by labeling. And then the new Michigan law with milk products recommended last day of sale, donation is not restricted. During the group discussion, you talked about food date labeling, what can and cannot be donated, ensuring pantries do not become a dumping ground, and concern for too much donation that passes waste issue to pantry. Some school perception that, quote, food rescue language is demeaning or less attractive. Language to allow the term food, quote, food waste to remove waste altogether or wasted food. Focus for specific recommendations for Maryland, updating wasted food organic law to ensure food assistance providers are not included in encouraging pipelines to divert. Clarity on food day labels requiring organizations to do something, i.e. committee to work with various departments and state to create, resulting in clarity on guidelines for donating food that could be distributed to restaurants, grocery stores, etc., and guidance on food access policies on what can be accepted, tax considerations, facilitation of existing versus new. And I'll just say that one thing that, like, during this week that doesn't relate to that is that I was very honored to attend the farmers market conference, and there was quite a discussion relative to gleaning and where the existing documentation associated with tax donations is. And I think that this would be really useful and helpful to have some sort of documentation that relates to that, of where donation and gleaning and tax certification lie. So I'll let Stephanie respond at all after that.
Yeah, I was there. I remember now. Thank you. So I appreciate that, Shannon. Yes, we were trying to look at other laws to see what exists in other places. And we acknowledged that the FDA was coming out with a call for information about updating their guidelines, but they haven't yet. And so we were looking at other states to see what they had, to see if there was some kind of guidance we could follow. And we kind of came up with the fact that we need guidance, exactly as Shannon said. It sounds like not only for donations but also for gleaning, and so the recommendation may just be as simple as asking an agency to create this type of guidance, or creating or just or the university or somebody to create this kind of clear guidance on this, because it didn't seem to exist, and we just wanted to make sure that that people knew what was already out there. And then we need to think of not just what's there and what our current guidance is, but also if there are changes that need to happen to make sure that the donation process is not taken advantage of. And also, again, there was that whole question about being in schools and what is allowed and not allowed. And I think there was some confusion on that as well. So either clarity on guidance or possibly through a policy or just through an agency.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lansing, and thank you, Shannon, for helping to jog some of the thinking there. It looks like it was almost a month ago, so it's very understandable that it might be a little rusty. And I do just want to note that Carol has put a policy brief in the chat that folks may find interesting, which is from Harvard Food Law and Policy Clinic, Hopkins Public Health, and ReFed, which looks like it's very relevant to what we're talking about. So make sure to share that around so folks can take a look at it. And it looks like this group has not set up a date for the next meeting yet. And it was a small group the first time. So I might follow up with some of the folks that were part of it to see what the latest on that is. All right. And that does it for the ad hoc work group updates. Thank you to everybody for sharing what was discussed. It sounds like a lot of really great progress has been made on a lot of different topics. From here, we've just left some space for any committee member updates. So if anyone has an announcement or something they want to share with the group while we're all gathered right now, please feel free to do so.
Do you mind if I share? So I've been going back and forth with the folks at University of Maryland Extension to see about any updates that they have within their law and public policy activities as well. And there's a really great farm to food assistance resource document that I don't know if anyone is aware of. So I'm just going to put that in the share drive, the share chat, in case anyone has not seen it. And I think it has a lot of really good references, especially for donation, tax resources, liability protection, etc. So that if you didn't know about it, now you know about it.
Thank you. Perfect. And Shannon, I know I've been part of some of those email chains with that. So is that just a specific ask for, Paul and others in Extension to just update and create a fact sheet or a guidance? Is that the ask for them?
So I was wondering if they had made any modifications to they had done some press releases on some donation guidelines. And I was wondering if they were planning on doing a revised one, since the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan law had been revised, and also Maryland tax donations have also been revised. And when Megan and I were there in MDA on Tuesday, we were talking about how the Harvard Law, Food Law and Policy with the University of Arkansas's tax deduction for food donation legal guide hasn't been updated since 2016. And so the question that is going back and forth right now is there a consideration that potentially that could be updated within the state at the very least to make it as a cut sheet, one pager or something like that, or ask the folks in Harvard and University of Arkansas if they would be interested in updating it nationwide, right? So we can get more clarification on how to, what are the tax deductions and programs around the country.
Okay, thank you. And I wonder if that just falls into what we're kind of saying, and you were talking about specifically the laws and the tax break, but I'm wondering if the work group we were just talking about, if that falls into, not only do we have the need for this document, but we need to disseminate them. And there's probably, I think if we put our heads together, we could probably come up with a 1, 2, 3. It might be like a fact sheet series versus one thing, right? I think that sounds very reasonable as something that comes out of the work group.
And I'll just put it in the chat too, the document, so that everyone knows what I'm talking about in case you wanted to click on it. But this legal guide hasn't been updated since 2016. And the NRDC had a one pager that they generated around the same time to define it a little bit more for those that are don't want to read through the 11 pages. But essentially this is the 11-page document that hasn't been updated since 2016. And then I'll also put a link to the one that is the one pager.
Right. And Summer, are you going to be able to put these? I'm on my phone here. So are you going to be able to put these in the minutes, these links?
Yeah, we can share these around after the meeting.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you, Shannon. That's super helpful. And sounds like it might give some really good food for thought to that work group.
Summer, may I have a couple of seconds?
Please go ahead, Dr. Karki.
Maybe it may not be the right announcement, but I would like to thank you, Ms. McDonald, Dr. Lansing, responding to my query yesterday, and a few others also responded. I am very happy to have received all these responses. And I would like to request maybe here on the team, Dr. Lansing or Ms. McDonald, if you have time, please help me coming down to our beautiful university and giving a talk about composting, how we encourage our farmers to make compost from all they grow in the year. The reason is I have scheduled a training on March 31st about climate smart alley cropping, but our university has not formally announced, but a kind of guidance, like we should not use climate smart agriculture this time. Maybe we need to find different words. That's why I have rephrased my training, alley cropping for extreme weather variability, but that anyway, we'll be talking all about this climate smart practices. And I would love to have someone who can talk and educate our farmers and graduate students about making compost things.
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Karki. I'm reaching out internally to figure out how we can find a solution, whether it's myself or a collection of folks here. But yeah, we'll try and help you out the best we can.
Thank you so much. Thanks a million.
I love it.
Yeah. And I
Go
may
ahead.
be able to, Dr. Karki, I may be able to send someone from our team to that as well. I looked at the date and I can't come on that date. I have a previous engagement that I'm speaking somewhere else during that time. But once you have the formal announcement, please let me know and I'll be happy to distribute on our networks.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Lansing.
Well, great to hear all the collaboration happening. So what a nice note to end on. If there's nothing else, does anyone else have last updates or comments that they want to share? Going once, going twice.
Actually, let me just say, I mean, I think the main thing is I know that we have basically a month before we need to report back for those sheets. So I think the main thing is, and this is on me too, obviously, because some of those work groups I'm supposed to schedule the next meeting, but it's a good reminder that if we can schedule the next meeting in the next, day or two to get that on everybody's calendars. Before Annika was scheduling them, but now the onus is on us to do this. So make sure that we are scheduling those meetings so that we can kind of really try to work through the template that we need to fill out for the policy recommendations to make sure that we, are keeping on target and have something ready for to share at the next meeting.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for that. I think that covers everything we need to cover. Just wanted to share again so everyone has it. The emails you can use if you need to reach out to FSRC coordinating staff. We're happy to help. But yeah, just want to say a big thank you to everybody. And we'll follow up with some of those great resources that were shared. So thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Summer. Thank you, everybody.